Welcome back to the third and final video in our series where we're learning how to create a responsive web page. So far we've got a pretty good looking site. We've got the HTML and the CSS styling done for our desktop view. See, as we scroll down, everything looks pretty sweet. But if we were to view this web page on a mobile phone or a tablet, things would get a little bit messy. So if I drop this down to, say, mobile phone screen size, which is about here, you can see the header becomes a bit jumbled up. The bottom section doesn't look too bad, but the pictures down the bottom are way too small. So there's a couple of things that I would change. If I bump it up to the tablet view, which is probably around here somewhere, you can still see these pictures are way too small. And this heading up the top is still getting a bit jumbled up. So we're going to have to adjust those few things to make sure that our web page is suitable for viewing at different screen sizes. Okay, so I'm going to go back up the desktop view here. The way we do it is we just add a little bit of code to the HTML first of all, and then we're going to do the rest in the style sheet. So I'm going to start with the index.html page here, and up in the head section, where we've got the title and all these links, I'm going to make one more new line. And what we're going to do is add in some metadata. So you need to put in a meta tag. Now this metadata that we're adding in is just a bit of information to tell the web browser how we should display the web page when we first load it up. So if the user is viewing the web page, say on a mobile phone screen, we don't want all the information to appear like it would on a desktop view. Okay, that would have the user scrolling horizontally, so left and right, and that's not a normal gesture that users do on a website. They scroll up and down, but they don't scroll left and right. So we need to put in this line of code to prevent that from happening. So I'm just going to write meta name equals viewport. This is a weird line of code, by the way. You don't need to remember it off by heart. You can always copy it off my tutorials. We're going to write content equals width, and then write equals device minus width. And then we're going to put a comma and write initial dash scale equals 1. And then we're going to close off our pointy brackets. So it's a weird line of code, but in simple terms, it basically prevents horizontal scrolling, and it will basically make your web page load up a lot nicer at different screen sizes. Alright, so stick that into your HTML document first of all. I'm going to save that. Then I'm going to go over to my style sheet. And this is where the magic is going to happen. We're going to create something called a media query. And media queries allow us to make responsive web pages. So we're going to cater for the tablet screen size first of all. So looking back at the example here, the tablet screen size is probably somewhere around here. Okay, so we want to fix this text at the top by making it probably a little bit smaller so it fits in the screen size a bit nicer. And we want to fix this picture situation in the bottom by removing this picture on the left completely. We'll just make this one here stick around. So let's put in our first media query. We need to write the @ symbol by pressing Shift and number 2 and writing media. So @media, then we write only screen, and then in brackets we need to write max width. And that max width needs to have a colon and 768 pixels after it. In simple terms, that is basically saying anything below 768 pixels in size, so the screen size, we need to apply the following changes. Okay, so go to the next line and open up some curly brackets. What changes do we want to make when our screen size hits that tablet view? Well, the first one is this heading up here. I want to make it smaller. I also want to make this subheading a bit smaller as well, but we'll start with the header to begin with, the big one. I'm going to access that header class by writing .header, and I'm just going to simply drop the font size down to about 20 pixels. I press Ctrl S to save it, preview it, and you can see already that's looking so much better. Okay, I've just reduced the size of that down to 20 pixels and it fits perfectly in that tablet view. Probably don't need to resize this, but if you wanted to, I'll show you how to do it. So that's the subheading. If we go back to the HTML document for a sec, this is the subheading right here. If we were to edit that now, we'd be adjusting anything inside the P tags, and it would also adjust the paragraphs down here and here. So we're going to have to give this paragraph a unique name. So we need to write inside this one PID equals, and we'll call it subheader. And now this little paragraph has its own unique name called subheader that we can style up in the style sheet. So I'm going to write hashtag subheader. We use a hashtag when we're accessing one of these ID names. And if we're accessing a class up here, we need to write a dot. I know that's confusing. Sorry about that, but just the way it is. So for the subheader, we just change the font size again. So let's drop the font size for this fella down to 18 pixels. Just that little bit smaller than the header above it. Save him up. Go and preview it and we'll see what happens. Ever so slightly smaller, still looks good. So I'm happy with how the header looks at the tablet view. If we go down the bottom, it's just the pictures now that I want to sort out. As I said earlier, we want to remove this picture on the left. Okay, so if we go and have a look back in our HTML at those two pictures, remember we gave them ID names. The first picture on the left has the ID smallpic1 and then smallpic2 for the image on the right. Okay, so I'm going to go down here below the subheader and put a hashtag and write smallpic1 and then open up some curly brackets, and I'm simply going to write display and set it to none. That means we are taking that small picture 1 out of the equation. It's no longer going to be in our web page. Let's have a look. There we go. So we're in tablet view and we've now only got one picture at the bottom. And by removing that first picture, it has stuffed up the formatting or the layout for this second picture. So we'll just need to do a quick bit of styling on that as well. So put in the hashtag smallpic2, open up some curly brackets, and for smallpic2 we're just going to set the width to 100% of the page. That's going to make it fill up that space that the smallpic1 used to have, like so. It's looking better, but we still got an issue there where it overlaps the footer. So we're going to change the we're not going to float it anymore. Remember we had this small picture 2 floating to the right hand side of the page? Let's get rid of that. So we'll just write float and set it to none. That should go back in line with the text like so. And that looks so much better. That's a nice size for that picture. I can read that text on it a lot better. And I think we are looking good at tablet view. Alright, let's bring it down to mobile phone view now, which is down here. Picture looks good. It's just this heading at the top, a bit jumbled again. We've got to go a little bit smaller. So we're going to do another media query now. This final media query is for mobile phone screens. So we're going to put the @ symbol again and write media. We write only screen and we set up the max width again. So the max width this time is going to be 576 pixels. That's basically a mobile phone screen size. Anything smaller than that, then this is the styling we need to do. We're going to start with the dot header, and we're going to make that header font size 15 pixels. Beneath that, we're going to access the subheader, and the subheader is going to change its font size to about 13 pixels. Let's save that and have a look. There we go, that looks good. So that's fitting nicely at the mobile phone screen size. And if I stretch this out to tablet view, you'll see it gets that little bit bigger. And if I stretch it out a bit further, it will go back to the desktop view where it is nice and large as well. Okay, so that's looking good. So I reckon that is pretty much it. I don't think we need to do any more. So we've got our web page looking good at mobile view, tablet view, and desktop view. Awesome. So you've now created your first responsive web page, and we've done that by adding in media queries. Okay, it doesn't make a whole heap of sense, that line of code, but just remember you're making a media query when our screen size is 576 pixels or smaller. That's for mobile phones, or 768 pixels and smaller. That's for tablets. Okay, anything else, which is the desktop view, will have all this formatting above it applied to it. Okay, so that's it. One index page here, or one HTML page, one style sheet, and we've got a responsive web page. I will catch you in the next video tutorial. See you soon.